Pro-Palestinian activists lambaste Biden and Harris. Trump will be an even bigger dilemma. Pro-Palestinian groups in the U.S. are staring down a new challenge: Donald Trump and Republicans. The movement has tended to focus its efforts on who controls the White House and Democrats, whom its leaders view as more persuadable to soften support for Israel. But 15 months into the war in the Middle East, as the GOP trifecta prepares to control the White House and Congress, leaders in the movement find themselves with far less leverage and much more to lose. The Palestinian rights movement is very clear-eyed in understanding that it is very likely that this Trump administration will mean that things get much worse for Palestinians, said Beth Miller, the political director for Jewish Voice for Peace Action, a left-wing advocacy organization. This administration will likely be coming very quickly to try to take down the Palestinian rights movement, she added. Support for Israel is largely bipartisan, but Republicans have led the charge in criticizing the broader pro-Palestinian movement. A Republican-led House panel has summoned 3 Ivy League presidents over allegations of anti-Semitism around pro-Palestinian protests on their campuses. And last month, the House passed a bill that jeopardizes the tax-exempt status of any group the Treasury Secretary deems a terrorist-supporting organization, which movement leaders fear will chill pro-Palestinian speech. Palestine is, in many ways, the canary in the coal mine, said Sandra Temere, the executive director of Adala Justice Project. And so our organizations are under more threats because what all those authoritarian forces would love to do is shut down any dissent in the country. A spokesperson for Trump's transition did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump himself is a staunch ally of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and has a number of pro-Israel backers, including megadonor Miriam Nelson, an Israeli billionaire on whom Trump bestowed the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2018. During his 2024 campaign, Trump called Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is Jewish, a proud member of Hamas, because he refused to shake the Israeli Prime Minister's hand. I'm pretty sure you will see real concern around legislative efforts to silence speech, to control demonstrations and actions of that sort, said James Zodby, the founder of the Arab American Institute and Democratic National Committee veteran currently running to be its vice chair. We don't know how off the rails Trump will go with acceding to Netanyahu's plans. From the onset of the war, pro-Palestinian groups across the U.S. hit Democrats hard. They launched the uncommitted campaign against President Joe Biden in the primary, marched en masse on the Democratic National Convention in August, and often held out on full endorsements of Vice President Kamala Harris, even as they acknowledged Trump would likely be worse for their cause. I don't know what we could have done to push harder, said uncommitted co-founder Layla El-Abed. That strategy seemed to be working. Some of the less progressive stars, like Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, DNY, and Senator Bernie Sanders, IVD, have been outspoken critics of Netanyahu. When he addressed a joint session of Congress this summer, dozens of Democrats, including Harris, refused to show up. And last month, 17 Democratic and 2 independent senators backed a resolution brought by Sanders to block weapons transfers to Israel, even as the chamber at large slapped it down by an overwhelming margin. But the movement also ultimately undermined Harris' campaign. She lost Michigan, a state with about 400,000 Arab Americans, including Arab-majority Dearborn, where support for the Democrats slipped by 33 points compared to Biden in 2020. And youth support for Harris, coming off a season of pro-Palestinian protests that ignited college campuses nationwide, slipped by over 20 points compared to Biden in 2020, according to Sarciel. Some self-criticism is due in the pro-Palestinian movement because they boxed themselves into a corner following the convention by not enabling themselves to support Harris, Zodby said. Uncommitted, for example, said in September that Harris' unwillingness to shift on unconditional weapons policy or to even make a clear campaign statement in support of upholding existing U.S. and international human rights law has made it impossible for us to endorse her, even as it also urged its supporters to register anti-Trump votes. I really regret that Harris and the Harris campaign and the leaders of the Democrats didn't listen to us, said El-Abed, when asked if she had any regrets that the movement could have contributed to Trump's victory.